There, my name's James Baldwin, and welcome to Lakeside Drive's F1 podcast. We got there in the end. Apologies if you've been looking at a blank screen for a while. But welcome. Campy's turned his camera on ahead of everyone else, so we might as well just get on with it. Gentlemen, g'day.
G'day, mate.
Gentlemen, how are we?
Very good. Thank you. The joys of live broadcasting strike yet again.
Wow.
So it's good to be here. Look, what an absolute race. Campy, I hope you have bought not only a fleet of rubbish trucks to get rid of the absolute idiots that have taken part in the Hungarian Grand Prix and everyone else associated with it, but also a trash compactor to make sure that we can fill them over and over and over again. It was an incredible race. First of all, though, a big shout out to our Discord server. Yet again, just going absolutely off chops, which I thought was really, really cool. And please feel free to join that. You can find the link in the description below. And if you're watching the live stream on YouTube, it is in the same position. Lads, also wanted to shout out to Kyle from the US, who's left us a 5-star review. So thank you for doing that on Apple Podcasts. Appreciate everyone who's taken the time to do that as well. And the last point to raise before we get into all of this stuff is we're launching a MotoGP podcast. Tommy T doesn't care about that because he's not involved, but Campy, that comes out tomorrow, which is very exciting indeed.
Yeah,
so,
it'll be fun.
Look, go and jump across. You'll also find the link in the description below to that podcast, or just search MotoGP. You will find the Lakeside Drive image there. All right, lads, let's get into talking about the race. Of course, plenty have happened beforehand. If you haven't listened to the pre-drinks episode of our podcast, go and do that. Audio only first. Campy, let's start with you. Talk to us about, well, the incident, really, wasn't it? It was Valtteri Bottas.
Well, we finally got the torpedo that we wanted, didn't we? We've been talking about Daniel Kvyat up the inside, taking out half the field up the front, but this time it was Valtteri and Lance Stroll. Yeah, took out half the field. It looked like the red sea had parted for Danny Rick, straight into second place. We were super excited, and then slowly but surely, Stroll went up the inside. Took who did he take out? He took out himself, Charles, and someone else, and then Sainz went into Danny Rick, causing massive rear end damage. But there's a couple of guys up the back that made the most of it. Ocon and Vettel, shocking starts. Didn't do anything right, in the bin for me, and then come out in P2 and P3. So it's just, that is motorsport sometimes. And we saw an incident like that. I think the last time was Malaysia at night in the wet too. So it's the last time I remember anything like that happening on the first corner.
Yeah, not good, and especially not good for Daniel Ricciardo, who got an absolutely epic start. And he needed a good start, didn't he, in terms of how he's performed over the weekend. And just wrong place, wrong time. And it was Lance Stroll having a leisurely crash into Charles Leclerc. And Charles Leclerc, it literally just really, really poor in terms of spinning him around, like spinning Daniel around. The amount of people who had contact but was still facing the right direction. Unfortunately, Daniel wasn't one of them because, of course, with the red flag and the restart, he could have found himself further up the grid. But anyway, we'll talk about Daniel in a little bit. Tommy T, what was your take on the whole situation?
I just can't believe how lucky Ocon was. Everything just worked perfectly for him. He had a shocking start, which benefited him. He ended up on the inside, kind of trying to go behind some people. He almost slowed down right at the end, and it just parted perfectly for him just to slot through and end up in second. It was unbelievable, just luck for him. But that is, like Campy said, motorsport, and you just got to make the best of it when it happens.
Yeah.
But we'll get to the rest of the race later, because yes, he was lucky at the start, but he also backed it up, which is
absolutely.
He did, yep.
I've got a couple of other points here too as well before we get into that. Sorry, Campy. My favourite part of the post-race was Toto Wolff sitting on the Sky stage with Simon Lazenby, and Toto Wolff was apologising for what happened to the Red Bulls, just as Simon Lazenby in his wisdom
wasn't.
Said he literally was, as he said, so Toto, sorry, yeah. Are you actually going to apologise to the Red Bulls? Literally, as he was apologising, Lazenby spoke over the top of him, and then Toto's like, yes, as I just said. I said publicly,
Sky.
I'm sorry. Yeah, just terrible reporting yet again. The whole weekend was not good. It was.
So does this mean Valtteri's got himself a job for next year? Because that was like playing the team game, right? Completely did the right thing there. Took out both rivals for his teammates so he could take the lead in the World Championship just before the mid-season break. What a move. I liked it.
Tommy T, we always talk about like, oh, well, all we need to do is see Bottas be a good rear gunner and just take out the Red Bulls. He's listened.
He did it. I don't think it's going to be enough. I reckon based on this week, Latifi's going to get the drive, so everyone just needs to It's done. Latifi has proved that he is the points getter for that Williams team, so he's going up to be the teammate of Lewis Hamilton. You heard it here first.
That I've never seen Nick Latifi on a broadcast ever, and then I've never seen so much Nick Latifi and so much Williams attention this weekend. And geez, I'm glad he outperformed George.
Well, isn't it ironic? That means at the end of this year, there's going to be 2 years in which George Russell has outqualified his teammate at every race for 3 years straight, and he's been beaten in the World Championship twice.
But he's the second coming. He's the next. He's the savior, isn't he, George Russell?
Oh, give me a break.
We'll get to Williams in. We'll get to Williams in a little bit. Another interesting moment, lads, that I really enjoyed was Lewis Hamilton saying on the radio regarding Alonso's moves. He moved over on me, man. It's dangerous at these speeds. Well, he would know.
Oh my gosh,
he would know. That is
Seriously.
a true statement.
Can I just say that is
Shortest
why
memory ever.
Go on, Campy.
Can I just say that is why we watch this sport. That was the best 5 or 6 laps of racing that I have seen in the last 3 years since we've started this podcast. I'm going with. That's why we love it. How good is Alonso? Just the composure. Not that he was quicker and he's going to get past any other track, but this track he just positioned the car right in the position in which Hamilton was going to put his car in order to get the pass done and just squeezed him out. And the guy at 40 years old still hasn't lost it. We talked about this year. He started a bit slow, 3 or 4 races in. We were questioning him. Ocon was pantsing him, got the big contract. And then, bang, Alonso's come alive, figured out the car, the wheel-to-wheel racing at those speeds and around that section of the track. Just amazing to watch. And it was Alonso that got him the win at the end of the day.
100%.
I mean, it was that work. I think when if Hamilton wanted to win that race, it was when Raikkonen came out in the front of him and Alonso made that mistake. If Hamilton wanted to win, he had to get past him straight away. But yeah, just the cheeky Spaniard just knew where to put the car, and it's just good to watch.
Tommy T, you and I were actually pretty sort of like, don't know about Fernando Alonso coming back into the sport, and we were poking a lot of fun at the bear, which is very rare for us to take the piss out of Campy.
We don't do that.
Not at all. We are consummate professionals here, aren't we?
We are
You guys
professionals.
You guys couldn't take the piss if you try.
Anyway,
it's just not even in you.
It's nice to be proved wrong because the guy who just turned 40, which also backs up my point about we don't always need, teenagers in these cars all the time, was outperforming a world champion. And he said, and I say outperforming because he said after the race, Lewis was making mistakes and he was positioning the car in the wrong place for about 10 laps, which surprised me. I thought it was coming earlier. And then after he got past me and he came around Sainz, he repositioned his car coming into one and then took Sainz immediately. And he said, so I think Lewis was actually struggling. And this is the guy who can say that kind of stuff. 2-time world 100%. Champion. He's been around. I just want more Fernando Alonso in my life.
No repercussions. He's the old guy now. He's like, what are you going to say? I don't care. He's like,
I wonder if he has a helmet. I wonder if he has one of Lewis's helmets yet. Future world champion.
He might.
Probably gift. Alonso should give Hamilton one after that race and say, there you go, mate. That's for your
See your collection. Chuck it into the tyre yard with the rest
Alonso was playing chess out there, and mate, he had every move that Lewis was going to throw at him sorted, counted, and ready into the next corner well and truly before Lewis had even thought about it. He had him absolutely licked for about 8 laps there and literally cost Lewis getting the race win.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Now, we need to talk about the biggest, I cannot believe I'm actually reading this as I woke up this morning, news, and that is Sebastian Vettel being disqualified for not having an additional 700 millilitres of fuel to take out for a sample. The regulation states that at any point during the race that 1 litre of fuel needs to be taken out for scrutineering, and they could only get out.
I'm going to say, and I'm going to push back on what you said before about the best thing about F1. I'm going to say this is the best part of F1 is waking up the next day and having the race result completely overturned because of some stupid rule that didn't happen on track. I think that's why we love this sport. Am I wrong?
Andy, what the hell's going on with this? Because I think that is the biggest, like, we've redesigning this whole car. We want more racing. We want all these things. We want fans to be involved more. And they can't have an additional 7. Like, how big does the sample need to be? Is there fuel in the car? 1 mil. Yes, this is fuel. Good. Move on. Like, what a dumb technical regulation. Unless this is something about
can
Ferrari
you start it up or
cheating.
not?
I don't know what
Does it tick
explain
over? Yes, no.
Well, look, I too am shocked. And I don't like the fact that we got to change the result for Vettel. But he still did it on paper. It's a bit like Lance Armstrong winning the Tour de France. He still won the 7 things, and no one can say they beat him. Vettel still got second, did the interviews, did the podium, took the trophy, and then they took it after him. So in his mind, he still got it done. But to play devil's advocate, he's still there's a reason why we have these regulations, and it is fuel flow sensors. We saw Ferrari cheating a couple of years ago with that. We didn't actually know how much fuel was going in. We saw Danny Rick lose a podium for fuel flow at the start of the turbo hybrid era in 2014. Red Bull have had a couple of times with their fuel flow, and that's what it's around. See, Aston Martin's technicians came out and said, according to our records, we should have 1.4 litres of fuel in there, and it shouldn't have been an issue. But that suggests that there's either something wrong with their calibration or they had more fuel flow going through the thing. That's why they have going through the motor. That's why we have these regulations. Am I a stickler for the rules? Absolutely not. I don't want to pull drivers up on things happening for stupid things that don't affect the outcome of the race. A bit like the Renault over-revving for 0.001 of a second in Malaysia a few years. That, to me, that stuff, cut it out, get rid of it. But there's a fine line between where it comes down to these engineering things, because if you let people off with it, we know Ferrari's going to cheat like hell to make it work. So that's, I can see it 50-50.
Can I just have a quick shout out also to our live stream people? Adam Hughes, Sledge TV, Aya, and Hollandsworth. Hello to you. Thanks for joining us. Campy, you're absolutely right. But Tommy T, you and I spoke about this just before as well. The biggest thing out of all of this was the promotion then of Carlos Sainz to third. And here is the tweet from Scuderia
This is another
Ferrari.
podium.
At Carlos Sainz 55 has been promoted to third following the disqualification of second place finisher.
It's just the disrespect of
And
Sebastian
Aston
Vettel.
Martin has come back in a
Jerks.
tweet with a gif of Seb saying, "I'm Sebastian Vettel." Can Ferrari stop being such a bag of idiots? Like, what is that even? Why can't you even say your name? Like, just whoever this social media chick is that we saw in bloody Drive to Survive that was like, "No, Seb, do this," and says like, "Are you kidding?" But anyway, you're an idiot. True
Seriously.
story. Unbelievable. Dumb
pathetic.
Ferrari.
Yeah.
Really pathetic. And disrespectful of Seb. 4-time world champion. Get bloody better at being alive. Okay.
What a shit organisation.
You're not wrong.
Be
Why
like
would
working for you, Jim.
Buy McLaren.
It would just suck.
Thank
It would
you.
hurt my ears to work for you.
Thank you. Thank
Rescind
you so
his
much.
job offer now.
I look forward to never offering you a job. Not that I would have done anyway. All right, let's talk about all the teams from backwards to front, and we're going to start with where we were just talking. Aston Martin, unfortunately, with Seb Vettel disqualified, and Stroll having, as I said before, allegedly crash into Charles Leclerc, into Daniel Ricciardo. Must be really nice being a terrible driver and just having no repercussions about how you perform each weekend. Campy, come on, what's going on?
I've always said about Stroll, he's a 1 in 5 race driver who'll pull it together. But we're 11 races in, 12 races. 11? Yeah, 11. And he's done nothing this year. Absolutely nothing. Started off really poorly. We saw Aston Martin as an organisation tried to sue the FIA and get some regulations changed, go down the legal route so that his son could get some points. Just ain't going to happen. But that's what happens when you copy a car from last year. And the flow-on effect to this year is the car's really not that good. And if you're not Mercedes, you can't make it work. So, yeah, Stroll for me is I emptied the bin last night, took everyone out.
Whoa.
Stroll was the first one back in. So... he's just, I mean, there's got to be another driver out there that could take his seat and compete better. The first person that comes to mind is Nico Hülkenberg. he would make that guy look like an amateur. And he'd
Yes.
probably beat Seb too.
Yep.
But, oh, no, his dad owns the team, so let's get him back in.
Oh, ridiculous. Tommy T, we're not happy, are we?
I'm not surprised though. I've kind of just given up trying to have this Stroll hate because it doesn't do anything. It's not going anywhere unless he
mean,
he
you're not
starts
wrong.
doing serious damage and getting disqualifications and like getting race bans and things. Like he's going to be around for a while, I would think. So we just kind of got to deal with it and just root for his teammate to absolutely own him every week.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
one day we're gonna celebrate him having 300 Grand Prix starts, and we'll be like, what, why?
He's the new Rubens.
One
What
in
have you-
5.
What have you done in this sport? Not even 1 in 5. It's 1 in 0 at the moment.
That fraction doesn't work, I don't think. No.
No.
I will call you out, Tommy T. He's not the Rubens. Rubens Barrichello, really passionate, super lovely, cries when his son races, really talented driver, went up against Michael Schumacher. Stroll has done...
Oh, no. I love Rubens. I'm
and,
just saying, just race starts.
and he hasn't done anything.
All right,
Yeah, you're not wrong. All right,
let's
and
talk.
it's sad for Seb as well because look, Aston
Yeah.
Martin are fighting it. Let's hope that comes off. Let's talk about Haas because Mick Schumacher had like the 2 championship contenders behind him. Admittedly, one had a broken car, but the other one didn't, and he was holding him off. Now I understand a lot of the things that said broken car. Yes, blah, blah, blah. Facts. I don't care. Mick Schumacher was doing such a good job, and I was happy to see it. Tommy T?
Big fan. He was doing exactly what he was supposed to do. He had, like you said, 2 championship contenders behind him for a long time and was causing havoc, letting the other midfielders run away with it, and probably was a big contributor to why Lewis didn't actually get back to the start. Max never had a chance, I don't think. His car was cooked from the start.
Yeah.
Same with Daniel. But genuinely, like he was doing the right thing regardless of their pace. He was doing exactly what he should have been doing. It was good to see him actually having some wheel-to-wheel kind of action and defending some moves properly, like because he hasn't had to do that other than being blue flagged all year. That's kind of the only way we've seen him contend with these guys.
Yeah,
Raced him hard. Good wheel-to-wheel racing.
yeah, it was. Got his
Great
elbows out.
wheel-to-wheel. That's
Seb-
what we want to see.
Seb would have been proud.
Yep. That's what you see from these young drivers every now and then. It's the first time we've seen it with Mick all year, and he got the job done.
Yep.
Unfortunately for his teammate, Mr. Mazepin, how could they stuff up the unsafe release in the
really.
pits? Like, I get that it's the start of the race, you don't want to lose a position, but it's not like they had position anyway.
Yeah.
They were just trying to gain, just super frustrating. It was Raikkonen's fault from memory, wasn't it? It was Raikkonen that.
Yeah.
Oh man, yep. I feel somewhat sorry for that guy because he doesn't probably get the. I don't want to say he doesn't get the credits in our bank because we never see him on track, and we don't really look at their times at it closely enough to give him an honest review. But yeah, he's in the bin too.
But Tommy T, it's more importantly because we actually got to see, whoever the TV director was decided to show, again, like Nick Latifi and Schumacher, who we often don't see. Even Giovinazzi got a little bit of a showing as well. But that was really important. And I think really important for his confidence too as a young driver. And Campy, he probably has good wheel-to-wheel racing with Mazepin, as you say, but we never see it because he's so far back off the pace. And of course, the TV director doesn't show everyone. It's not like this podcast where we're fair and talk about everyone in an equal way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not. The
Let's move
most
on to Alfa
biased
Romeo.
podcast on the internet.
Yep, you're not wrong. Alfa Romeo, Kimi Räikkönen in 10th and Giovinazzi in 13th. Of course, these are all the results after Vettel's disqualification. So if he wins the battle, all of these people get pushed down a place again. But look, good for Alfa, I suppose, to get a point. They need it now to close the gap to Williams, which never thought we would be having that kind of conversation.
Yeah, what's going on?
But they were probably, it almost looked like they were the weakest car on the grid.
Yeah.
Would that be a fair assumption, Campy?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, absolutely. They lacked pace. Again, they were held. Kimi held up Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen for about 15 odd laps before he pitted, Kimmy got past him in the end, and it was only because of Seb's disqualification that he got that point. That's really, I mean, they were terrible at this track, let's be real.
Yeah. Qualifying was horrible. The car
Qualifying
wasn't set up.
I mean, Latifi and GR out qualified both of them. So, yeah, not good for them, but they're probably concentrating on next year. I think we're at that point in the season where they've given up the ghost.
Yeah.
And, looking for next year and all the information they can extract from Kimi Räikkönen and Italian Jesus. So,
What's his name?
So good.
that's a good name.
I'm so
Yeah,
glad
but
you
you're on
said
fire
that.
with the nicknames.
You
today.
are on fire.
Doing
Let's
well.
let's continue through the pack. Unfortunately, the next team we're talking about is McLaren. Send help. As we said, look, Lando Norris. Let's talk about Lando Norris before we talk about DR. Norris, quicker weekend, of course, and quicker than VB off the start, evidently, to put himself ahead of him, which, well, that was the mistake, obviously, wasn't it?
Yep.
But in terms of his reaction after the race, I mean, this is, he was going on, I think, 16 races of scoring points for McLaren, which 15 was already the longest stint of any McLaren driver ever to score points for that team. He looked really gutted. And this is the first crack to me that it kind of looks like this isn't the well-polished Lando that we've been shown so far. And I think we mentioned in the pre-drinks yesterday, Tommy T, in terms of, how he doesn't ever talk about Daniel Ricciardo when he's talking to camera. What did you take of that?
He was a little bit sooky after the race, I felt as well. Like, mate, some things like that happened. Like, yes, you were very unlucky with it, but at least you know it wasn't your fault. It was nothing you did. Whereas if you had a poor result, you can be a bit like kind of down on yourself. To be that frustrated and kind of, I don't know, very sooky almost, like, woe is me, I'm hard done by, this always happens, like they're out to get me kind of vibe he was giving off was odd. Rather than just kind of like, oh, this is racing. I've been on the other side of this and benefited, which he definitely has. He just seemed like a very childish kind of reaction. And you're so right. Like, not once has he mentioned good that Daniel got some points or kind of, he very rarely mentions his teammate. He's always like, we did well as a team, but never specifically mentions Daniel, which is an odd dynamic because from memory, he'd always mention Carlos. Most teams, the drivers will reference each other and how they're going. Like, we saw with the Ferrari guys how much Leclerc was like, oh, shadowed for Carlos. Even over the radio when that had happened in his crash in qualifying, he was like, I can understand. It's gusty like crazy out here. Like, there's genuine kind of camaraderie. But it seems like Lando's just distanced himself and thinks he's the hot shot around that campus at McLaren and doesn't want to hang out with the new kid.
Yeah, what's going on, Campy, for your mind?
Oh, I think the results would suggest that he can sort of walk around with a bit of that arrogance too. But I think what we're seeing play out is we're seeing decisions probably being made off track in the garage to get the car the way that Daniel Ricciardo wants the car. So they're changing the way that the brake-by-wire system happens. They're adjusting engine modes and brakings to get a familiar feeling that for Daniel to get the car set up for him. There's probably a bit of that going on, but you got to remember this guy's representing the team. Look at Sergio Perez and Bottas and the way they handled themselves after it. Yes, they got experience, but this kid in his third year of F1 he's having a really good year, should know better by now, and he should be trained a bit better. I just think it's a bit childish and he needs to sort himself out, but he's in for a very, very rude awakening when making decisions, but Daniel Ricciardo. And they already have, and they're going that way. And Daniel's not there yet, but he's closing the gap. And long term, I just think it isolates himself from members of the team if they see it that way. I don't like it. I mean, I'm a fan of Lando, and I have been.
Yeah.
I mean, now he's coming up Danny Rick. It's like, geez, we hate him already because we're Australian. So it's like you're the enemy number one. So, well, let's be real about it. But I just think there's a way that you can handle yourself professionally in this era. It's not yesteryear. It's not the 90s. It's not the early 2000s where you can be a Michael Schumacher type or do things like Mika Hakkinen on track and win world titles. You can't get away with that now because people expect more from the individual. They expect you to be the bigger person and the person that's fair to the nth degree at times. And I don't necessarily like it, but Lando's got to get an attitude check at some stage. But it's interesting that the contract that he signed too. And then he signed for 3 years, I think it was, for $6 million a season. That is nowhere in comparison to where McLaren and the investment they're putting into Danny Ricciardo over the 3 years, it doesn't even touch what Danny's on for 1 year. So there could be a bit of that. There could be a bit of infighting. But as I said, that kid is in for a rude awakening next year when the car's completely different. It's designed around Daniel, and his driving style won't adapt to it because he's had 3 years so used to one system and the evolution of that system and knowing how to tweak it and change it that he's going to look like egg all over his face, and we predicted it here first at Oz F1. So,
or whatever this podcast is called.
Sorry, yeah,
In the live stream, Captain Virtual says, "Campy, this podcast does not even come close to the bias of most English podcasts," which is a correct statement. Which is why we're having a conversation that Lando really needs to just take a couple of steps back here, rather than being like this. And I think also the biggest thing for me is he's gone from so buddy-buddy to Carlos to really figuring out that, geez, if I don't sort my life out here, I'm going to get my ass kicked, which hasn't happened necessarily, but he's gone so far the other direction in terms of siloing DR that, of course, we're not going to like it because we're massive fans of DR. But also, Daniel doesn't seem to be that kind of person. Like, he's very similar to Carlos he's really great on track. He's professional. He needs to be, but has a bit of a laugh. Like, I think maybe
he's
Carlos
a lighthearted
and Daniel.
guy. I don't know why you wouldn't want to hang out with him.
Yeah.
It seems bizarre. He doesn't seem like he'd be different behind closed doors. We could be completely wrong, but from all indications, we know Daniel behind the bloody legend.
Yeah.
And would be an easy guy to get along with and just good to collaborate with on getting more out of that car.
One of the
rather than trying to go at your own, Lando, you big weirdo.
Don't try and get too big for your boots too early, Lando. You've done absolutely nothing in the sport other than get a couple of podiums. I've said this before, but you know what? Statistically now, Esteban Ocon and Pastor Maldonado are better drivers than you on track, which says something about you and what you've actually achieved. So just calm down. You'll get it together. You've got a chance. You've got a long time in this sport. Figure it out in the first 2 years, not the third.
Yeah. Maldonado back to Williams, by the way. That's who I want to see next year. Good segue, Campy. Daniel Ricciardo, obviously just gutted. But considering how much damage he had to hold off Max for as long as he did, you know, was pretty good, to be honest. Unfortunate still he doesn't get a point at all.
He had just as much, or if not more, damage to his car than Max Verstappen did. And not one mention of him on commentary in the start that he got.
Nope.
No love for Danny Rick at all. He's on the nose at Sky Sports, the UK. They are a shambles over there.
Teammate.
Yeah, because they've picked the side, mate. And this is the thing that we keep saying we're really, obviously Danny Rick biased here, but we can't stand the British commentary. One of my best mates, Alistair's just arrived in the US, and he was in a hotel in LA yesterday morning and thinking about, actually, Formula One's on, because I was messaging him, and he goes, I'll just turn it on ESPN. And I was like, who have you got commentating? He's like, Crofty. I'm like, I can't even bloody escape from in the US.
How do they deal with that? Bloody hell.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like, the jokes are... Anyway, I don't like it. I don't like it. But Daniel's start, absolutely chef's kiss. Now, we need to really keep saying, don't we? And it frustrates me that we need to keep doing this, that he will get it together and that 2022 is the year that Daniel will shine. A lot of people have been saying to me, oh, that's it now. Why didn't he just stay at Red Bull? Let me give you a hot tip. Stop asking me why Daniel Ricciardo didn't stay at Red Bull, because I've got 2 words for you, Helmut Marko, all right? And then everything else, aside from that, is what it is. But he's here. He's where he is now. He's still performing better than where he performed at Renault in a similar time. Next year, we got regulation changes. He's an epic driver. Let's just lay off him a little bit at Australian Formula One fans. He will come around. This will happen. I have the confidence. And if I don't, okay, cool. Whatever, we move on. But we still don't need to write him off. It seems like we're probably the only podcast that actually continues to talk about him.
Yep.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. All right, let's move on to Red Bull. This is a weird order to be talking about
order.
things. Max Verstappen in 9th as a result of Seb being disqualified, and of course Perez DNF'd. I saw footage, I should say, of Valtteri Bottas going up and apologising to Perez, which was really good. Good, VB made a mistake, and he's got a lot of cap in hand action going on, trying to apologise to a lot of people, and a 5-place grid penalty, of course. But Sergio Perez, disappointing for him, because this was an opportunity for both Red Bulls really to put some more, I guess, room between Mercedes in the front of the Constructors' Championship, not just to the Drivers' Championship. But of course, we didn't get to see any of that. So it was just unfortunate. Tommy T, should we talk about your fellow Dutchman a little bit?
Poor Max. To be honest, though, I think crap for him, but he handled it really well, I thought, considering. Did not crack it, no dummy spit, just got on with it. Had a damaged car. That would have been the shittest thing to run around and try and get a point, which is what he got at the stage. It's been elevated to 2 points now, which is he'd be stoked about, I'm sure, as Hamilton's bloody almost doubles. But he could have just thrown it in, retired the car. He didn't. He did the right thing for the team. He was like, we can get some points here. That would have been a hard day for someone who is fighting for the championship and is watching it slip away as his rival just gets to overtake him twice, I think it was. That guy is such a professional now, and he is not the young, immature Max that we saw crash out early before his race in Monaco. He is so different, and I think, if anything, going into this mid-season break, it's going to spur him on to come back really focused. He's going to be less vocal in the media about it, and he's just going to get shit done. He's not going to be playing the games, because we're seeing that that's actually been playing into Lewis's hands, I feel, the kind of very media-facing stuff that Max and Lewis are engaging in. I reckon he's just going to shut up and he's going to race really hard, and he's going to give it right to Max, because we saw it happen, and Campy remembers the Nico fight with Hamilton. Like, it's so mental with Lewis. You can't give him any fuel to that kind of narrative. Lewis loves a bit of Lewis, and he thinks he's in a movie, and he's the star of the movie. And if you give him some kind of thing to overcome, he will. So just don't give him any fuel for that fire.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Bit like MJ, don't poke the bear. But I think, I think Max handled himself brilliant, as did Perez. I think Helmut Marko's got egg on his face. That guy, what an absolute dickhead.
Moron.
And I'd tell him that. Like, we should get a sign at the Oz Grand Prix next year. Helmut Marko, you dickhead.
We drive in Adelaide.
Yeah. It can't be in Melbourne, surely.
Well, won't be in Sydney.
Yeah.
Gee. Look, Marco, he'll come out and say, Valtteri Bottas deserves a race penalty too. So, a bit of a shame, really. I mean, shame for Red Bull, but it's a bit of good riddance for me. You carrying on like a muppet, and that's what happens. They thought their car and the way they were talking off track and acting off that track, they thought they had this world championship in the bag. And the last two races before the mid-season break, look where we're at. They've lost it. Had two pretty much DNFs. And there you go. That's what happens. It's motorsport. I'm looking forward to the next half of the year, because it is going to be a brilliant fight right down to the last race, I believe. I think the first 3 or 4 tracks are particularly Spa, I think they're very suited to the Mercedes. A bit more high speed, and middle, like high speed corners with not a lot of downforce needed. So, we're moving into a bit of Mercedes territory, and it could be like the start of the year. We saw the first 5 or 6 races; they were Mercedes dominated. They were the better car until we got to the Red Bull ring. The twos, and Max went on that 5 race run of pole positions and wins. So. I believe Perez got a win too. So it's going to go down. It's going to be track specific for the rest of the year, and we don't really know where we're going yet. I mean, we could get to
Awesome.
100% Mercedes track too. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the last 12 races if we get them. I'm not sure we'll get all of them, but we'll get at least 10, and it's going to go down the wire. It's going to be bloody exciting.
The last thing to remind ourselves of is that Max has also essentially DNF 3 races as well, and he's still in the championship hunt. This one's pretty much a DNF. He had not a competitive car, and 2 other races he hasn't been able to put a result through, no fault of his own. So we've got to remember that he's got 3-0 versus Lewis has been in every race. And think how lucky Lewis has been in retrospect compared to Max. I think back to Imola, he ended up off, and that red flag saved him, managed to get back and fix his car. Anyone else with no red flag, that would have been race over, no points, but he managed to claw that back. So I think we're going to see a little bit of shift back towards Max's favour with a bit of luck, and hope that it comes back in his way and not so much in Lewis's like it has in the first half of the year.
But look at Mercedes; they would be absolutely fuming about the points they have left on the table at this midpoint way of the season. I mean, they left 7 or 8 points on the table yesterday with the fastest lap. Now, if Lewis had a pitted and gone to slicks, like he should have, he knew he should have done it. I know Toto came out and defended the decision, but they left another 8 points on the track. Think back to Baku, left, got the start and went off. He had a minimum of 18 points there, probably 25. I think this championship is not going to be decided by like the drivers themselves. It's going to be decided by some of the team decisions that they make off track, when to pit stop and when not to pit stop, and the points that you leave on the table because of those poor decisions. And I mean, the drivers, we know the drivers are going to get it done on their day, and when they got the car to do it, they'll do it 9 times out of 10. It's just these days like yesterday where Red Bull seem to be the ones that are coming out with a bit of bad luck at the moment. But Mercedes had some bad luck earlier on in the year too. So interesting. It'll be very interesting to see where we go.
It is definitely a battle off the track at the moment, as you absolutely say. And everyone kept saying, "Oh, can't wait to see the Drive to Survive, Netflix crew getting around this." We don't need to. All the Sky Sports, even F1 itself and everything else is overhyping the story to the point where, of course, Lewis and Max sat in the same press conference. They just can't bloody help themselves, F1. And Tom Clarkson's there. And whispering. I know what you think of Tom Clarkson whispering.
Speak up.
Asking the question, or was about to go on the question about if Lewis gets up and alongside you, Max, and Max goes, stop, I've had enough of these bloody questions, except he didn't say bloody. Can we just not? Like, it's all happened and it's all done. I'm sick of it. Can we talk about something else? Like at the end of the day, we're competitors. And yes, we're going to push each other and we're going to do so fairly and we're going to race. I was like, thank you. That is it. That is the end statement. That is all of being what have came out of the fortnight ago with instead of this nonsense with Alex Albon and bloody Marco and Christian. And it's just not, even to the point where after Toto had said sorry twice because Lazenby wasn't listening, and as he brought Christian Horner onto the stage, Toto walked past him and apologized again, and Karen had a smug look on his face, and Christian said to Toto said to Christian, be friendly. So who in this environment now, who actually has the upper hand? Like, it's Mercedes.
Toto's definitely got the upper hand because they've won the last 6-7 world championships. They've won the last and constructors championships too. They knocked Red Bull off the porch, and they have redefined this sport, what they've done in this turbo hybrid era, and shown what is capable. We've never seen a run like this ever before. So,
and Marco's a liability in this fight off the track. That guy's a lunatic.
He also can't wear his mask properly. Put it over your nose, mate. And literally everybody else can do it. People with wheel guns can do it. And you're walking around with the same mask that you put on in the first race in Austria last year. You haven't taken it off. You've got your own immune system up with breathing into the same mask. It's ridiculous. Before we get into Campy, don't go mask. Don't go bloody.
Why do you bloody wear them in the first place?
There we go. If you haven't listened to our pre-drinks episode, extra special bonus content at the very end.
I didn't listen to it. What'd you put in there?
All of it. Let's talk.
What did I say?
Speaking about Toto Wolff, that's for you to think about for the next 15 minutes. Speaking about Toto Wolff, has this... Look, we came out of last fortnight knowing, or being told rather, that Toto Wolff hasn't made the decision about the second Mercedes seat. Now,
yes, he has.
We've come through, well, you should say Valtteri Bottas because he's just managed to... Anyway, but we've come through this good success for Williams and good point scoring for George. George drove bloody well. And yes, we are talking about Williams this far up the pack now. George drove really well. He got past Schumacher, the onboard of him getting past Schumacher. And I guess, yes, I know Haas and Williams, but he put the car in a really great position coming out of turn one and held that line. And he looked really ragged after the race too. He was working exceptionally hard. Is this now the weekend where Toto has decided that, yes, George Russell is going into this car? Tommy T, to you first.
I think it's already happened. I think it happened at the start of the year, basically. I think it's going to be revealed later on, maybe in a couple of seasons from now, that VB was tapped on the shoulder very early on and going, mate, you're done. You're not getting re-signed. Do your best. If you perform well, we're going to give you every opportunity until the end of this year to perform really well and get yourself another seat, but you're not coming back, mate. I think that's going to come out.
The nail in the coffin was Abu Dhabi last year when he stepped into that race and should have won it.
Yeah, that's true.
That for me is when it happened. It was like, right,
Sure.
we gotta promote some young talent.
But we saw George Russell. He was actually very emotional as a result of getting the points, and I genuinely believe that. I know, Campy, you said he's shown no emotional personality, but for this weekend...
he's shown plenty of emotion and personality. There's just not much of it.
Anyway, he's shown it this weekend a lot. Maybe he's just catching up. For all of the effort that Claire and everyone else has put into the team to this point, and now, of course, they're being rocketed along by their new owners. Really good to see. Some nice, wholesome
Rocket was a
content.
former sponsor, mate. They're not there anymore.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. I was like, who's Rocket? Yes. But also Nick Latifi, as we said, who outscored. Which is so
Canadian.
So glad. His post-race interview was fantastic. He was very happy, very smiley, nailed full of emotion and character. Campy had a lot of good things to say. Nailed the interview. I want to see more of Nick Latifi, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I want to see him in the car next year. Absolutely, I don't want him to lose a seat because watching him drive and hold that third position. Yes, I know DRS train and it's hard to pass, but he held off so many faster cars for such a long period of time. So, I mean, really, Esteban Ocon has two people to thank for his win, Nick Latifi and Fernando Alonso. Campy, Williams, though, for both of these guys, actually had a good weekend.
Yeah. Congratulations. Love to see it. Yes, it was a race where there was a whole lot of incidents at the start where like the top 6 runners got kicked out straight away. But we always have 1 or 2 races like that a year where the grid is thrown up in the air and results like this happen. And it's good to see that it was on a track that favoured a Williams car because I mean it's hard to pass on this track. It's very difficult. We can see that, and they were able to hold cars up in DRS trainers, which all their luck went their way yesterday. To have Latifi running in third for as long as he did, great for the organisation, great marketing. Not that we saw a lot of it on track, but I think it's what we want to see in this sport. We want to see that the underdogs get up. We want to see the closing of the field and the gaps, and we're seeing that in qualifying. We haven't quite seen it on track, but this is one of those races that everything gets thrown up in the air, and let's see what happens. And it's good to see that Williams got a result, got some points. Getting points is good for them. They get cash anyway now. They've changed that rule, but it's exciting. It's good to see they're on the up. We encouraged Claire last week for everything that she did previously, and I copped some flack for it online, but that's cool.
You copping any kind of flack?
Yeah, I even responded to it too. I was just like, geez, the guy had a fair point too.
I actually think he's watching the live stream as we speak, so be nice.
He had a fair point, and I thought about it like that, but sometimes you just can't be so cynical and angry. You've just got to actually look at it and you've got to be positive.
I will say, though, they had a terrible qualifying, and I was pleased that Mr. Saturday wasn't a thing. Adam Hughes on the live stream is saying George Russell is now Mr. Backwards Sunday Russell because he performed
Georgie boy.
But it's good. And you know what? I'm glad to be talking about Williams at this point in our conversation around the teams, and I'm glad to be talking about Nick Latifi more. Honestly, I think, like Giovinazzi, it's good to do. It's good for the sport to be able to see things outside of Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton crash. Really,
it'll be good when Valtteri gets a race win with Williams next year.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri performed very well. Closing, they were, I mean, really not as good as their main championship points rivals in Alpine, but again, good weekend. It was also great. Yuki Tsunoda getting on the radio, telling the team to tell Gasly to hurry up, and then in the press pen afterwards trying to confirm what he was trying to say wasn't that by saying exactly that. I wasn't trying to tell Gasly to get out of the way and to switch drivers. What I actually said was saying, I saw him making a couple of mistakes and he couldn't get the tyres on, so maybe we should switch drivers. He was like, hang on.
Oh, wait, I played myself.
Hey, I'll do that once a podcast too, boys.
But
realise I'm talking shit, and then I'm like, well, I would know that if I did do that. So anyway.
But anyway, good result for these guys. Look, they were down towards the back of the grid, which was the place to be, as Seb Vettel said, and Ocon has clearly made apparent. but they were in a good position, of course, to get some points. Gasly struggled a little bit for pace, as Yuki said, but then strapped some new boots on and went for fastest lap of the race. So there's obviously performance there. We know how good Gasly is. It's, he's not going to McLaren next year, that's for sure, but there is hope for him somewhere else in the sport. I hope for his sake. But Yuki Tsunoda, that is a performance that he needs to be doing once every couple of races to impress, I think, the Red Bull team and us that he should be staying around for next year.
Yep.
Campy, are you putting Gasly back in the bin, or can you come out for a little bit?
Oh, I'm just not a big rap for him. But as I said, I just think he's going to have a career like Sergio Perez. He's going to be that guy.
Yeah.
And he's always going to be tainted with the first stint in Red Bull and how astonishingly bad it is. So I don't need to say any more about that. It's a shame because he's driving well, but Pacheco's driving well too. Checo was driving well for his whole career after his first initial stint in McLaren, but he was tainted by that. And he's getting a shot now and not really making it work. So prove me wrong. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he one day gets on the podcast and says, Campy, you're full of shit. I can't stand you. You're the reason that I drive. You give me motivation to get up and be better. Great. Awesome.
Imagine
He's not going to do that.
No, but like people that hate him or not hate him, the doubters in him that say that. But anyway, I don't need to say about that. They got some genuine pace. The Honda power is good. Yuki Tsunoda, geez, he's in the bin, I reckon.
Ooh.
He's had half
full again. Bloody hell.
No, it doesn't take up
no, look, he's had
It's good, James.
he's had half a year. They put him in too quickly. He's not up to. He's not going to cut it.
We
In my
said this
opinion.
yesterday in the pre-drinks that he's been rushed in the typical Red Bull way. They've ruined yet another driver's
Dr.
career.
Helmet.
That's the simple answer to the question.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Campy,
Yep.
before we move on, can I quickly get who's your favourite French driver? You have to pick one. You can say
favourite.
Leclerc if you want. Monegasque counts.
Grosjean.
Yeah, Roman. Oh, well, Ocon probably. It's not Leclerc. It's not Gasly. I'm going
not
Ocon.
Gasly?
I'm
Wow,
going.
I'm
I'm
shocked.
going Ocon over Gasly. Yeah.
Wow.
I've just
Wow.
never like the very first podcast we did. James brought him up and like, don't rate him, don't like him, shouldn't. be
I
in the
think,
sport.
James, I know what it is. Campy bought a trench coat and then saw Gasly wearing the same one, and now he's pissed off. That's what it is. He's jealous of how good he looks in the trench coat.
Now he only has to exclusively wear his Minardi trench coat around the place and not his AlphaTauri one.
I don't really
Paul, if
care.
you're listening, he needs another Minardi jacket. I'm sure you've got stacks sitting in your Boeing 737-200.
See, as I said before, you guys wouldn't know how to take the piss if it tried and hit you in the head and I walked through the door and gave you the joke. You two are absolute muppets.
Thank you for your blessing yet again. Okay, let's talk about Ferrari and their useless team, but not a useless driver in Carlos Sainz, managing to get a after-hours podium. As one of the guys on the live stream said, Carlos Sainz is very skilled at after-hours
He's
podiums.
special.
It's one of his
Mate,
skills.
He did it all, didn't he? He was the strategist. He did everything. He just about got out and did up his own wheels. Bloody
Yeah.
legend. Spot on.
Yeah,
Carlos.
yeah.
I
you-
love
Carlos.
that he made the call. Carlos.
yeah.
I love that he made the call. He could see what was happening. And that is a hard spot, as the commentators point out. One of the good things Nico said is that's a ballsy move to make the call when the strategists have all the information and you've only got a very limited view from in
Mate.
the cockpit and what you can see.
Mate, he
To make that call, he's so confident. He was so right, too.
He watched Ferrari and Seb Vettel last year and their ability to strategize, and he knew. I mean, I quite like the last Ferrari strategist, and apparently he's got Aston Martin. But I mean, Carlos Sainz has to step up because
Yeah.
they don't have strategy in Ferrari. They don't
No,
ever.
they just react.
It's always terrible.
Emotional.
It's like Campy's running it. It just doesn't make sense. None of it. But Charles again, fairly
Mate,
good.
I run a tight operation. You don't need to worry about that. Tight
It's not me
operation.
that's worrying about it, but my friends in the AFB. Carlos, did well and good to get through. And I'm glad for him because after the issue that he had in qualifying, it was good for his confidence to get back. Charles again had great pace, and of course, unfortunately, if Leisurely Stroll hadn't had a leisurely crash into him, he probably would have done very well as well. But we won't know. The only thing as well, of course, though, is that means that Ferrari claw back some points closer to McLaren in the Constructors' Championship. They're not quite there yet, but Yeah,
Getting
it's
closer.
going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting for third, I think, the longer we get. So that's
Big
why
time.
Daniels needs to start performing and getting some wins. Just not some wins. Well, some wins would be nice, but getting in the points at least that
And I
would be
believe
good.
Carlos has overtaken Charles in the drivers too.
Well,
With
that
that
all happened
result
when Charles
yesterday.
wasn't racing, so I suppose.
Yes. Anyway,
Yes.
one
But
of
I think
those
they're both
races.
great drivers. So Ferrari actually has a good lineup. At least that's
Yeah.
saying something for the on track, unless not the off track. Mercedes, VB, as we've said before, unfortunate rookie error. He came out and said apologized for it. He gets a 5-place grid penalty. Does he deserve more? Maybe. Look, it's been done. It's like the same thing in the Hamilton Verstappen incident. It's already been decided. We don't need to go into it afterwards. I'm sure Helmut Marko had speed dialed the lawyers straight away, talking to them, trying to see what they could do. But yeah, shame for VB. He obviously looked dejected, and it was nice to see, his support crew around him. But it's hard to watch, isn't it? Knowing, as you say, boys, that he's probably already knows his fate for next year.
Oh, well, he's got 10 races left or 12 races left in this team. Come out after the season break and perform the way you wanted to from the start of this year. Try and take home, I think, 3 victories in his last 12 races would probably be on his list to achieve. And if he can do that, well, then he's ended strong. It didn't quite work out the way he wanted to, but hey, that's it. If he can help win another constructors championship for Mercedes in a battle that's going to be the closest that we've ever seen, what we've seen in the last 7 years, then that's what he's looking for. That's got to be his new target. I don't think he can realistically win the championship from here. I mean, he mathematically can, but yeah, just get a bit of perspective, reset, and see where he goes. We spoke about him going to Red Bull next year. I think that's
Not anymore.
well. But
don't
it
think
would,
it's gonna-
yeah, I know. Shit. Well, I walked through that one, didn't I? But it would make a logical. I think he'll get a drive in F1 next year because you've got to remember he's up against the greatest results driver of all time. And you're always going to be harshly judged. You look at some of the greats that drove against Michael Schumacher. Yeah, it's a real shame for Valtteri, but it'll work out long term for him. He's got a long time in this sport if he wants it. And I think anywhere else he goes, he's the number one driver, really.
Yeah,
other
absolutely.
than probably Red Bull and McLaren.
Tommy T, what do you think of VB?
I think he's still got it. I think that team is not a good dynamic for him. It's not getting the best out of him. They're not supporting him where he needs to be supported. It's kind of like, I don't think it's the same level of what we saw with Seb last year at Ferrari, but it's kind of that where the team's kind of moved on. And I think he's just time's done. So he needs to find somewhere where he can go and he can become the Gasly like he is at AlphaTauri, where the team gets around him. He is the center. He is, I don't know, supported the way he needs to be supported. He's still a great driver. He's still young. He's not old yet. And we saw how good he was as a young driver at Williams. We've seen how good he is next to Lewis. Comparison to Lewis, you're always going to look second best, but this guy's had moments. So I think we need to remember how good Lewis is as a yardstick to measure against, because Valtteri is still an excellent driver, and put him in any other car against another driver, he's going to stack up.
Well, let's talk about Lewis, because this was there was a lot of whinging on the radio, but there was actually a pretty good drive at the end to be able to do what he could do. And him on the podium, I know a couple of people were saying, oh, he's putting it on, but he genuinely looked absolutely buggered. Absolutely. I thought he was going to pass out at one point. I mean, I think Esteban realized that as well and sort of helped him up on the step, which was nice. But he also had nice things to say. Post-race conference, he was very complimentary of Esteban, very complimentary of Fernando, all of that sort of stuff. I know he sort of got on the radio of Fernando a bit, but it was good to see, because, I mean, this is where the sport should be going. And even if Uncle Johnny was trying to protect him, saying, no, don't boo, no, none of that.
Uncle
Thanks.
Johnny,
Shut up, Johnny. So shut up. No one cares.
I think for the first time in his career, he's actually felt some support for the fans, like rallying behind him, and you can see it. Not that he hasn't had the support from the fans. Well, it's not particularly from me, because of the way he carries on. I'm super critical of the guy at times, but he's, in the last couple of weeks since the Max Verstappen incidents happened and the racial shit that went online and stuff like that. He has obviously felt some love from the fans, and it may just change his perspective. And I think that's why he's been acting so calm, cool, and collected off track in the way he goes about things. But mate, what a drive! Like, what a stonking drive to come from behind. And those passes were hard to make. He couldn't pass. He was struggling to pass Max and Daniel Ricciardo at the start of the race, and then the team. I mean, the team Mercedes, they got the strategy right. I think Carlos, when Carlos pitted, that really knocked their strategy on the head. I think long term didn't work. But
he nailed that strategy, didn't he, Carlos?
Yeah.
What about when he did his pit stop? His second pit stop came out onto the yellows, and he's running a 1:18.
Yeah,
like
ridiculous.
3.5 seconds faster than the top guys. And within 8 laps from the pit stop, he was back up to the rear of Fernando Alonso where he'd been 8 laps previous. I'm shocked that Carlos didn't pit at the same time or go early to try and keep that track position. But he was in a hard place because if he pitted, Hamilton would have gone up the road, although his tyres would have run out by the end. Anyway, look, it's an interesting one, but good on it. All credit to him. Got a second in the end at 18 pretty valuable points. And things go. He writes the script, as Tommy said.
Yeah.
He's the star of that movie. But you know what? He delivers every time, doesn't he?
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, let's talk about Alpine then, because Fernando Alonso, as we said,
driver of the day.
4th. He absolutely was a driver of the day. And Esteban Ocon, of course, winning first. Great for the whole team, and really nice for Fernando to be celebrating with Ocon, and for the whole team. As I said, it is encouraging for them. Of course, not there because of pure performance and pace, but this is the kind of racing and racecraft that these guys need when something happens up the front, to be able to step up and take it. And of course, this just solidifies their decision to keep Esteban Ocon for another 3 years, doesn't it, really?
Yep, and justifies Campy in saying that chassis are the reason people aren't performing.
Yeah.
Because clearly this chassis was working this week, wasn't it? No, I think it's really good for Alpine. Since they've come back and taken over that Enstone team, this is their best result, their best weekend. It's good. I think it's going to keep them around in the sport longer, because they were kind of on the fence, because a lot of that team is owned by the French government, as far as I'm aware. It's kind of owned by the people. So I think this kind of result is going to reinvigorate the French supporters, and they're going to want to continue. I think it's deserved for that team. Like in our podcast with Michael Italiano, we were talking about how that team culture was so different, and they didn't have that culture of winning because they hadn't won. So, but I think that is starting to change. Someone like Alonso is going to be huge for that culture. I think that's a foundation that Danny helped start bringing there as well when he was there. But you're seeing the fruit of it now, because they start believing that they can actually do something. Those pit stops under pressure for Ocon, as a race leader, that is some of the best pit stops you're going to see, because that is the highest pressure pit stop you could possibly have. Because your race is lost because Seb would be through. And we saw Aston Martin stuff up their pit stop in relation. So full credit to that's a team win for them to get 1st and 4th there. That is incredible job from that very kind of young rookie team in comparison to some of the others out there.
Yeah, Campy.
Yeah, well, when Danny Rick weren't there, you look at the projection that he set out. He's like, we're not going to be getting podiums in my first year, but second year we're going to be competing for podiums multiple times. I think they got 3 last year and probably should have had a couple more. They were 4th. I think Danny Rick was 4th 4 or 5 times. And they always said this year was the year that they planned on winning. I don't think they wanted to win like this. I think they wanted to, genuinely competing up track. But their trajectory and everything that team has done is what they've said they're going to achieve, which is good. I think Fernando Alonso helps. And Ocon, I'm critical. Like, I'm not critical of the guy. It's a great. He got shown up in a way that I didn't even think Danny Rick would beat him that as badly as he did. But he got absolutely pants last year. So it'll be good for the guy's confidence. And Fernando Alonso, geez. Look, sorry. Ocon, right place, right time for me this race. And that's, he didn't win it purely on track and purely on his pace, because if you had a clean race, it's just not going to happen. In saying that, he drove start to finish basically in the lead. And that's all you can ask for under pressure from a 4-time world champion in Sebastian Vettel the whole race. Didn't put a foot wrong. So good on him. I think the team's in good shape and they'll be happy moving forward.
And Seb
Yep.
mentioned as much in his press conference, didn't he, James, saying how much he was pressuring and Esteban just didn't fault.
Yeah. Seb had the faster car. There is no shadow of a doubt there. But as we know, Hungary is a hard place to overtake. So Ocon just kept him out of DRS for most of the time. And as you say, pit and strategy, excellent and perfect. And yes, as you also say, Tommy T, Italiano helping. I mean, Italiano made this win happen. Let's be honest. That's the takeaway.
Get up on the podium, pal.
End it.
Let's
End
give
that
it to him.
conversation.
Let's give it to him.
But it's all good stuff. All good stuff. All right, lads. Well, that's the team by team analysis done and dusted for the first half, even though we're not halfway through of the season as we head into the summer break. Favorite time now to talk about Fantasy League. If you're not part of the Lakeside Drive F1 Fantasy League, go and join because it doesn't matter really what kind of points you score. For me, it's all about the names.
You say that because you're losing, mate.
Correct. How could you tell? But I've chosen a selection, lads, of my favourite for this round. We've got David Waterpark Croft, Nicholas H. Yes, Ted didn't mention it once that I could hear, not even in his notebook. Your booze serve only to fuel my power, Nikita A. Three beautiful snowflakes, Lydia S., which I can only assume is Campy's beard and Campy's beanie. Good old McLaren Darren, James J, Esteban from my team, Jay Quinney. I put that in there because that's hilarious. I bet you wish you had him in there and turboed from that weekend. And last, and send help, RIP us. Danny forgot how to drive O. And Chris Gray, who is also from Australia. So your betrayal is noted.
Kicked off.
Made a list.
He's in the bin.
He's in the bin. The top three performers in Hungary were Ryzen, Team 1. I mean, put some effort in changing team name, please. Hungary, like the Toto Wolf. Josh L. Well done, sir. And my score keeps cutting out. Okay, checking. Lauren R. I love that.
Good.
As we approach the summer break as well, Campy, unfortunately, is 28th. It's so
Damn
depressing.
it.
As we spoke about yesterday, oh no, Campy's left Carlos Sainz in his fantasy team. Damn it. It worked out very well and turboed. Tommy T, you've dropped 10 places behind Campy at 38th, and I am 45th. It is.
Oh, come on.
It is not good news.
Hey, Campy, did you know that you get your Mega Driver back at the mid-season, so you didn't use it, you massive idiot?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
2 uses, so oh dear. It's not gone
Oh,
well.
really? Yeah.
Well,
Well,
you
everyone's
probably would have
going
megged
back.
Max, and then it would have been buggered for you, and we could have scored 2 points.
2 points times 3, 6. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, great.
Well,
Great.
boys, hey, it's been a good start to the season, really, hasn't it? We've done heaps of content. We've changed the name of the podcast. It's all been very good. And look, we appreciate you guys watching along on the live stream. Thank you for that. Listening, rating, reviewing. All of it serves the algorithm, apparently, is all we end up doing now. So it all makes a huge difference. Thank
We're
you
a
for that.
slave to the algorithm.
We will be back with new content in a couple of weeks, of course, at the next Grand Prix, which is Tommy T's favourite track. But we probably will release our classic race review that we filmed at the beginning of this year, halfway through the year, which is an absolute... It was awesome. We really enjoyed
It's
that.
belter.
You shouldn't have said anything. No one would have noticed that my hair was massively long.
If noticed Tommy T...
Australian Jesus. That's what you were talking.
Now he's trying to create Australia on his head as an island. He's starting with Tasmania, and it's only going to go well. Look, boys, thanks so much. To you guys too, if you are interested in Two Wheels MotoGP podcast, we're doing that straight after this. In fact, we're recording that, and that continues as MotoGP comes back from its summer break. So you get to hear Campy and I for that. But boys, that's it for now. Thank you so much for both of your time. Can't wait to speak to you effectively in 2 weeks, even though that was recorded in like February, and then again in a couple of weeks at Tommy T's favorite
Don't
track.
think about it. It's too hard.
Thanks, boys.